Dwain, you're alive!
Yeah, every time I call you, I get your voicemail, and it says, "Hi, you've reached the voicemail of Arthur Poor."
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Beat the Beast, where rumors race the beast. I guess every now and then we do a show here where we take all the latest rumors and even some little bit of news, and what we do is we talk about these topics, but we race the world-famous beast. Of course, we know it's one of the longest roller coasters time-wise in the world, so we only get 4 minutes and 10 seconds to see if we can finish our discussion all before the beast hits the final brake run. So, Dwain, we are back with a whole new set of 4 stories. I'm, of course, Andrew Barczyk from Chicago, Illinois, joined once again by the not dead Dwain Sponseller from Parkersburg, West Virginia. Dwain, any thoughts on this offseason so far?
It's been quite interesting. I guess one reason why I haven't been around is because there's not been a whole lot to talk about. When we talk about off season, really slow year for major roller coasters coming through. We've only got 2 major ones really when you think about it, maybe 3 at top. So that's kind of been the lack of no Dwain on the no royalty back here on COASTER-net. But it is nice to be back. I will tell you that. It's been a long time, but we've got a lot of stuff in store, not only for tonight but for later on. So now that the season's started, we've got a couple parks opened up this past weekend. So we're getting into that season, thank goodness.
Absolutely, and we got 4 stories lined up for you as always. So let's get right into our first story. And as always, like I said before, we do race the beast. So we're going to put up that 4 minute and 10 second stop clock up there. And there you see it started. So our first story is coming out of Europe. And specifically about the Kanonen roller coaster at Liseberg in Sweden. Now, we found out over this offseason that Kanonen was being removed from the park in favor of a B&M dive coaster called Valkyrie that, just on itself, Valkyrie looks pretty cool. The color scheme, gold, silver, should have some pretty cool theming that if it turns out to be anything like the renderings that we've seen thus far online, Valkyrie should be pretty cool. But Kanonen is leaving the park. A little strange. It's an Intamin accelerator coaster built in 2005, so not an old ride. So I'm beginning to think, where is Kanonen going? You can't let a ride like that that's only, a little over 10 years old go to the scrap heap. And I'm thinking, Dwain, that maybe my pick is for it to go to Carowinds, because Carowinds is in desperate need of a launched roller coaster. How cool would it be if Kanonen actually ends up at Carowinds? Dwain, what are your thoughts?
Well, first off, I'm extremely surprised that a ride that's 12 years old is being taken out of a park in lieu of a brand new ride. Now, generally what happens is you take something that's been in there a good 25, 30 years, maybe an old wooden coaster that's just, seen its time, or maybe even, the old classic rides that the ridership is very low on and people aren't riding them anymore. And so you take those out and put in something new as well. But in this case, I wonder if there's something more to it that we just haven't found out about. Is there a heavy maintenance issue where they've had a lot of problems with downtime, or was ridership so low that they thought, well, maybe this wasn't exactly what they wanted. Maybe it's something that we should take out, bring something else in. Like you said, they're bringing in a B&M dive coaster. We look at the stats, and the first thing you said when you saw the stats of this new ride was that it wasn't very tall. Yeah. And you said, well, that can't be right. That doesn't seem like you're going to build a dive coaster and it's only 150 foot tall, but then you look at the renderings, and if it does look anything like the renderings, that gold track, the gold coaster track on the silver outlining of the supports, and then just that station. Now, never do the stations look like they're going to in the drawings, but that looked really interesting. The fact that it's going down into a hole in some of the renderings as well. So if they're putting that in, and it's supposed to up the ridership and maybe bring in more people to that park, because that park already has some really decent rides to it.
Yeah.
And so maybe that's the case. Maybe they just weren't getting the ridership. Maybe it was too long of a line. Maybe there were some maintenance issues. Those things we don't know because, one, we don't go there. It's a European park, so we're not there all the time, and we don't hear those stories all the time here at COASTER-net. So we're not real sure what the reasoning is. Now, in regards to where it's going to go, I completely agree with you that it should go to Carowinds. However, I do not think that's where it's going to go. I'm not sure how much the corporation or Cedar Fair in this case would want to bring in an old used ride instead of just adding one. I know they just put Fury 325 there a couple of years ago, so they are kind of hitting around the corner again to bring something else in. So is this one of those in-between times where they bring in something smaller to just fill the void because they do have some space? Or is this something that they're going to kind of continue moving forward with? Because this year they only put in like kiddie rides, right? Then they expand their Planet Snoopy or something like that. So,
they had all the flat rides edition this year.
Okay, so I'm thinking of King's Dominion then, or somewhere, one or the other. Mm-hmm. But with that, maybe it is something they're going to bring in. So then in a couple of years they're going to do something else big. Of course, I would say it's going to be a while since Fury 325 was there. So this could fit the void, but I would say that it's going to end up being somewhere in Europe, not even here in North America.
Well, and my final thought on it is maybe, with Liseberg, maybe it's because they just got Helix. And there you have the sound of the beast roar. We're a little out of practice here with racing the beast. But let me finish up that last thought, that maybe because of Helix already has a whole bunch of launches on it, maybe they felt Kanonen was too much of the same and want something completely different with the B&M dive coaster. That's a completely different experience. So who knows what's going to happen? But I think Carowinds needs a launch coaster, and this might be an economical way for Cedar Fair to do it, considering they do have other Intamins in the chain. They have experience with the launch systems and the mechanisms. They have materials. They have a lot of the supplies already. So maybe this is the way to go to do a cheap little expenditure at Carowinds to add in another coaster there. But anyway, we, of course, did not beat the Beast on that one. Went way over time. So the Beast wins is 1-0 on the 2017 season. But maybe this next story we can beat the Beast on. So if we can put up that clock once again, and there you have it. This next story is coming out of Silver Dollar City. Now, for the last 2 seasons, we've been hearing that Silver Dollar City is making a big splash come 2018. We've also recently just saw a story saying that Silver Dollar City is going to be making its biggest expenditure ever in the 2018 season. But the rumors coming out of there that say roller coaster, first it was a B&M dive coaster. That was the hot rumor come, towards the middle of last season, was that Silver Dollar City was getting a B&M dive coaster. Now, all of a sudden, that has changed to a Mack Extreme spinning coaster. If you haven't seen the Mack Extreme spinning coaster yet, the best way I can describe it would be a little bit larger version of Tempesto with spinning cars on it. Probably a pretty cool ride experience. But like you said, as we were talking about this earlier, you said it kind of looks like a parking lot coaster to you. It's probably going to be a good ride, but I don't know if it necessarily fits into Silver Dollar City if that's the way they're going to go. They have a great terrain there, have great, scenery. Why not, if you're going to go with Mack, why not put in something like Helix that's going to use the terrain and be an amazing ride experience on top of that? Dwayne, what are some of your thoughts here?
Well, the announcement where they come out and said it's going to be the biggest expenditure or biggest thing that the park has done, that throws me off of this coaster immediately, because that coaster, like I said, looks like a parking lot coaster. There's no way that can cost more than what Outlaw Run did, or even Wildfire for that matter. So I don't think this is happening at all. And I know this is the rumor. What happened to the dive coaster rumor? I mean, where did it go? I mean, why was people all on that, and then all of a sudden, nope, it's done now, we're going over this way? I want to go back to that. Do I believe that that's what it's going to be? Yes, because of those parks, there is not a dive coaster. Dollywood doesn't have one. Okay, they both have the very famous wooden coasters now. They've got other coasters that, one's got a flying coaster, or not flying coaster, excuse me, a wing coaster. And so I think that the one thing you don't see there is a dive coaster. Now, would I like to see something like Helix? Absolutely. That needs to be here in North America. And we've said that many times on this show, on COASTER.net Uncut. We've mentioned that we would love to see that. I don't think it's going to happen. I think because we see this huge influx of B&M this, B&M that, and an RMC this, RMC that, I think that's where we're headed. I want to go back to the original and say that's what's going to come to Silver Dollar City. There's going to be some B&M dive coaster that's going to utilize the terrain to its advantage and come up with some really good theming that would fit perfect for a park like that, because a parking lot coaster is very difficult to theme, and it would not fit there at all.
And we've seen some pictures come out of Silver Dollar City from recent construction, and they are building a huge structure down there for something. And for all the renderings, this one looks like it has like a station that looks a lot like Dragster Station for this Mack Rides Extreme Spinning Coaster. Maybe it's more than one ride. Maybe it's two coasters. I don't know. But something to me isn't adding up here exactly, that we've heard biggest expenditure and then we see this. Something doesn't add up. So I think we're going to have to wait and see on the Silver Dollar City rumor to see what actually comes to pass and see maybe where this construction goes over the next few months, because they haven't announced anything yet. There's construction going on. There's people in the park. Maybe eventually we'll get some better clues here. So stay tuned on that one. But that, Dwayne, we beat the beast just barely by a few seconds, but we definitely beat the beast on that one. So let's move on to our third story today. And before we get started, as always, we have to start that clock. And there you have it. We also see down, speaking of RMC that you were just talking about, things like Outlaw Run and Lightning Rod, we have seen RMC make their way down to King's Dominion. We earlier saw an RMC truck, and now just this past week, we saw RMC Iron Horse track showing up at the park. So it's all but certain that Hurler is going to get the Iron Horse treatment probably for the 2018 season is what it looks like, just like Mean Streak will. And we kind of saw hints at the end of last year at that press conference where they announced all those Planet Snoopy rides that you referenced before, and they had that ending comment of there's really more coming, and a lot of people started speculating maybe this is RMC. So now we see track. Dwayne, what could they do with Hurler? Traditionally not a huge ride, not very tall. What do you think is going to happen with Hurler in this Iron Horse?
Well, my biggest thing was we always said tear the darn thing down because it's terrible. But I mean, if you're going to do something with it, this is the only thing. Now, and again, it is your basic out and back roller coaster. I mean, it is your classic wooden style coaster that really doesn't do a whole lot. There's no overbank turns. There's no quick, turnarounds. There's none of that. It's just a rough ride. And if you're going to do that, you're going to have to add things to it. You're going to have to, unfortunately, like you said before, make it like Storm Chaser, where you're going to have to go upside down a couple times. You're going to have some of that stuff for that to really bring interest, because especially with the fact that it's right beside, what's over there? I mean, you're talking. You got to get people to that side of the park.
There's nothing.
And
I mean, it's going to
mouse, right.
You got Grizzly.
Right. That's what I was trying to figure out.
Windseeker.
Right. Yes, my favorite ride of all. Yes, but that's my point. You're going to have to get people over to that side of the park because all of the good rides are on the other side, and so this is going to have to be something that really is going to change this ride experience so much that it's going to force people to head over that way. And I think with that ride, I keep looking at the skeleton of that ride thinking, what can you do? Because it's not a huge footprint, and you're really going to have to make it condensed and then really try and up the speed maybe a little bit. Obviously, it's going to be a smoother ride with the fact that it's Iron Horse, but I was still negatively thinking about this when they decided to go about doing this. When we found out it was going to be RMC'd, and I said, I still don't like it. I think they should just get rid of that. That's a good space back there that they could do something completely new back there. But again, I don't know that King's Dominion really is in the, moods for that.
Well, I'm a little shocked here. I'm looking at some pictures here of, Hurler at King's Dominion. And I'm more shocked right now that Stan Mikita had a restaurant at King's Dominion. There's a hockey themed restaurant. And why did I never know this before? Being a Blackhawks fan, that's amazing. That's amazing. Anyway, I don't know what they're going to do at Hurler. I think the danger here is that it becomes too much like Storm Chaser. That Cedar Fair usually likes to do things a little bit better, a little bit bigger. Will this become too much like Storm Chaser with a wing over dip? That seems to be what RMC likes to do with the smaller rides. I just don't know, Dwayne. So once again, it's going to be interesting to watch to see what they do with this, because whatever happens at King's Dominion could very well happen at Carowinds as well. I don't know if it'll be the same thing. Maybe they'll change it up here and there, but I still think it'll be really, really interesting to see. So once again, we beat the beast. We are finally in the lead, Dwayne, on the season, 2-1 against the beast. But we'll see going into this last story here. So before we get started, let's start the clock. And our last story is about Lakemont Park in Altoona, Pennsylvania. Lakemont, famous for having formerly the oldest operating wooden coaster in the world, opening in 1902. They announced just recently that they will not be opening for the 2017 summer season. That the plan is that they are going to use the whole time to set up a new holiday lights experience that will be opening up in November. Now, this sounds really strange, first, it's going to be a drive-through experience. So I guess all around the park and down by the lake, and they're going to set up lights and animatronics, and people are going to drive through this area to look at these lights and look at these scenes and then meet Santa Claus at the end of it. Dwayne, I hate to be a pessimist here, but this does not sound good for the park, does not sound good for Lakemont Park in any sense of the word. What's going on here?
I read the story out of the newspaper in Altoona, and it said that not only is it closing, but they're taking a lot of things out as well. They're going to take out a lot of the smaller rides, a lot of the things that are just going to get out of there. They're only going to be leaving the two coasters. I think one of them, Skyliner, of course, like the dips. They're going to leave in a couple other things as well. They are going to be adding at the same time, over the course of this time that they're closed, a mini golf course, some go-karts, bocce ball, volleyball court, which that tells me right there that this is going to more like I don't want to say resort type idea, but it's going away from amusement park to more of a leisurely park, I guess is what I could say would be the best word for it, where, it's got a little mix of everything here and there. So maybe something sort of like you would see it like at a beach, like a pavilion or something like that. That's what it reminds me of. And this whole idea now, are they doing this because, one, is their Holiday of the Lights experience making them the most money? Because if that's the case, and this is business, and it's making them way more money, and it's going to help them out financially instead of having all the maintenance costs and all the things of running the park, then I can see and understand this. But why keep these things and say, well, we're going to open back up in 2018 after we get done with this Holiday in the Park thing? Because obviously this Holiday in the Park thing is a huge ordeal for them to be closing down their park for an entire summer season, right, to put all of this in. So there's got to be something more that we don't see. Of course, we're just going off of what we hear in the papers and the rumor mill and all of that. But we do know now that it's closed. And I first saw this, I'm like, you've got to be kidding. You mentioned the words earlier, like, what are they thinking? Exactly what came to my mind. What are you doing? You're talking about probably a place that a lot of people are used to going and spending a little bit of time in that part of Pennsylvania, and now it's gone.
Well, I think the biggest fear is that you have Leap the Dips, which, as we know, is the oldest coaster operating, that a lot of people are fearing that maybe that's going to go away. The park was really strange. I visited a couple years back. The park is really strange. Just a whole bunch of like you said, like carnival type rides thrown about in different areas in this beautiful park. So maybe they're trying to capitalize on the park aspect, get rid of these old rides. They had a chance toboggan there that was like a death trap. I don't think there's a person in the world that's going to miss that ride. The Skyliner's off to one side. Flanked on the other side is Leap the Dips on the other side of the park. So maybe if they can fill in with some other activities and just, have like a pay-per-ride deal on the roller coasters, maybe that's how they feel that they're going to make money, the go-karts, that sort of thing. Because I'll tell you, when I went there, we went, in the beginning of June, and the park was pretty much empty. A few families here and there. But I got to imagine that the money to operate those things, the insurance to operate those things, the maintenance costs on those carnival type rides, and there you hear the beast. So we're 2-2 on the day. But just to finish up that final thought, maybe this is I thought it was doom and gloom, but maybe this is really the only way to save Skyliner and Leap the Dips. So Leap the Dips has not been foreign to closing. It was closed for a good number of years in the late 80s through the entire 90s. Opened back up in 99. So hopefully it had a little streak here. So hopefully Leap the Dip stays open because that's a piece of coaster history that you can't get anywhere else. That's for sure. So well, as always, thank you for joining us here this evening on Beat the Beast, where rumors race the beast. I am, of course, Andrew Barczyk from Chicago, Illinois.
And I'm Dwayne Sponseller from the mountains of Parkersburg, West Virginia. And as always, may the queue lines be ever in your favor.
Right on, Ride Warriors.